the power was out, the internet was out, and then I was like, but it's not out everywhere. So let me MacGyver myself a nice
check Instagram for
60
Jared's
foot.
life updates on how he's rerouting power in his home.
Just like the Millennium Falcon, sometimes you have to take it from other places. Okay,
we had Chuck for one episode. Now he's out.
Yeah, he's all, I'm going to be here.
I will be here, except for I'm not going to be here.
Hey, surprise, by the way, guys, tomorrow I'm not in town. So as per our agreement, can't honor it.
We have no agreement.
We're going to get it back next week. So yeah, here we are.
In terms of money,
there's no money.
We have no money.
So we're in square one. And what do we want to talk about today? The Cat and Cloud Coffee Podcast. I feel like you should talk about how excited you are and what you might be doing up north. Maybe not. I don't know. I mean,
Dude.
It's like maybe not.
I'm actually excited for a lot of things.
Yeah, there's plenty to be excited about.
There's so much to be excited about.
Totally. 2024. Man.
We just booked travel to SCA for Chicago.
Yeah, I need that.
That's
one.
pretty exciting.
I haven't gone in. This will be like, dude, has it been 3 years? 4 years, maybe? Last time I went was prior to the pandemic.
Seriously?
So yeah, bro.
Damn.
I know.
Oh, because we had pre-pandemic, then the years when it just didn't happen.
I went pre-pandemic.
Or it did happen and nobody went.
Yeah, I went pre-pandemic. They had it during pandemic. They had it the year after. Whatever happened. All that to say, 2020, 2021, 2022, I haven't been there. Wait. Whatever. We're going into 2024 and I'm going to be there. So I haven't seen a lot of people in a long time, and I need it. I've already talked about that on another podcast. I'm excited. We've booked it. Chicago, get ready.
I keep...
Chance, holler at me.
In my mind, SCA happens at the end of the year, but it happens at the beginning of the year.
Always the beginning, April.
And every time at the beginning of the year, I'm just like, oh, it'd be cool to throw some sort of event or do something or get a gathering together, and then I get some sort of rude awakening that it's happening in a month and a half.
Yeah, I was like, there it is.
And I'm just like, oh, great. It's happening in a month and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So
and then we go.
Just going to be a guilty bystander. Just go make the people feel
good.
Way
to participate somehow. I'd be stoked to play coffee somewhere a little bit and dial in an espresso for somebody.
Probably with Steven at Art Presso.
Sure. I mean, always. He's got the tools.
That's a good place to be.
It really is.
That's 100% a good place to be.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the fine city of Chicago, of which I've never been, and experience some of its culinary arts.
I've only been once.
People speak highly of it. Everybody I know, actually.
I had a question this morning that I wanted to ask you, and now it is completely escaping me.
Damn.
We're off to just like a rocky start on this podcast here. Let me check my notes.
I didn't bring any,
I was like, I want to pick. Oh, yeah. Okay.
That was easy.
I completely remember what it was.
Good, man.
Yes.
Pick
okay.
it.
So, in terms of the overall retail experience,
yeah,
at Cat and Cloud, we do a great job.
Cool.
But we have so much more runway to do better. So if we were going to talk right now, I'm like kind of curious to know, what are your top 5 to 10 things that you think we could do better? Like if you could push a button and like, oh, dude, we're doing these things at a much higher level. Or what are some of the biggest opportunities, I guess, in retail overall?
Yeah. Okay. In no particular order, so we'll kind of stream of consciousness it. I think a really simple win for us that I think anybody also could grab onto is more of a accessible, fun, and pretty cheat sheet that would allow people to reference the coffees we have on site and a little bit of fun information about them so that we don't have to put as much pressure on team members to have as much of it memorized. We could have them memorize some main points, but they could always be like, anybody asked about any coffee, you could pull up a really pretty one sheet in front of you and be like, oh yeah, like I really like this one. Let's talk a little bit more about it. And there was an opportunity to like get some quick somethings. That's one thing. It leads to some really great opportunity for guest interaction in a less stressful environment for both parties. So that'd be really fun.
Got it. So I'm going to file that under coffee cheat sheet.
Yep.
And then I'm going to make a note that is, what is it?
Is that a long-term to do?
Well, no, I'm thinking, so that's a great idea. And then it would also be awesome if everybody did know
what
like the exhaustive list about the coffee.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally. I think, well, there's some sort of middle ground, right? So again, if you're hearing stream of consciousness, like that's a building block that says, okay, I am now able to, in a easy way every single day, look at something pretty and accessible to learn more about this.
This is also almost exactly where I left off the other day when I was reading Unreasonable Hospitality. Homeboys taking over the restaurant. What's it called? 11 Madison Park.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having this kind of not battle, but there's two different camps that work in the restaurant. There's the old guard, and then there's the new guard, which is the old guard's less fine dining. The new guard is more fine dining. And the way they have the whole thing set up is like everyone's pulling in a different direction, which it's almost like watching The Bear. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting.
I'm wondering
I'm
if they
sure
got
that it has to
Yeah,
be.
totally.
It's got to be completely inspired by something like that. But he was talking about how they're like, some of his big work is getting everybody on the same page, and there's these little things that happen. Like one of the servers came up to him he noticed it at what do they call the dinner?
The maitre d'?
What's the meal before service?
Oh, the family meal.
Family meal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone was noticeably stressed out at the family meal, and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "Dude," he just like hands over this humongous packet, and it's all wines with just insane descriptions. He's like, "I just don't think I'm going to be able to,
how am I gonna have this?
memorize this. Like, I can't fit all this in my head." And they were changing wines up a lot because they were a small restaurant, so they're
I remember
really
this story, yeah.
flexible. And he's like, "Huh?" And he looks at it, and he's, like, I'm not actually sure I'd be able to memorize this either. And they just started with the foundation. Okay,
Right.
cool. Let's
Points.
like trim this thing back. Like, what are the key essentials? It's grown here by this person. Here's the variety of grape. Like, there's like 5 key things that everyone can tap into. Like establishing that base before they go out and do this whole crazy thing.
Exactly.
Of like, cool. Like, because, and I like that he acknowledges that both stories are important, But
Absolutely.
if you don't know the foundation, like, you're never going to get to the higher level story.
Yeah. And you be stressed, and you feel like the thing is as a person working there, the person being stressed, right? They're like, dude, I'm not going to do a good enough job. And the person clearly wants to, or else they wouldn't be stressed.
Right. And
right?
Yes, exactly. And the anxiety of that big, crazy, exhaustive menu doesn't help you do a good job.
Right.
And yeah. So okay, cool.
That's one thing.
That's
And there's a lot of depth you could dive into where you could go from there and all that to say. But
yeah,
to both of our points that's one thing. I would, if snap of the fingers, right, I'd have the grind by weight grinders that work well and quickly, the faster versions all around. And that's pretty simple, but that comes down more to that comes down to our ability to curate the recipes in such a way where the team members don't have a lot of need to stress again about that. They're able to play in that window. They're going to get really good at not wasting coffee. They're going to have, operations are streamlined a smidge more in that capacity.
So then that is, I'm going in for like root cause. So that's like quicker guest service times.
It's better. Yeah. I mean, it's guest service times, but it's also waste and product management in terms of being like,
it's better accuracy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like being responsible and respecting our product on a whole. Yeah. I mean, it's greater accuracy. We're leaning into a higher level of precision and efficiency.
Quicker guest service times.
Better.
And then
honestly, it's going to be easier to keep
consistent.
the quality better. Like, right. If we are getting 19.1 grams each dose, then you know what I'm saying? Like when we know, we're able to curate from the top down, call it head chef wise. But if we're in the lab and we're like, damn, this is the coffee that tastes perfect, whatever, in this 0.2 to 3 gram range, and we know we're going to get that every single time, that's awesome. Right. So that's a thing that affects a few different levels, but it's a simpler one. Still great. I would have way better menus and signage across the board. We're talking all sorts of places. We're talking, and in whimsical fun ways. We're talking,
what about
lineups, pickups,
yeah,
condo stands, menus, like communication stuff, and it would all be branded in an interesting and fun way.
Yep. That one doesn't get to go on my list because you're already working on that one.
Well, yeah. We would have more fun and whimsical expressions through our restrooms in general. We'd have speakers in there. We'd figure out the smell thing as in general. We would have, it would be another place to get a little experience in Cat and Cloud. I think having some form of speaker, and if we could even set it up to be different and it could like play our podcast in there or something fun.
We talked about that before because my favorite bathroom experience was at that place in San Diego, and the name escapes me, but they play a voiceover of all of their negative Yelp reviews.
Yeah.
So you're going to the bathroom and you hear people complaining that they don't have ketchup, or you hear people complaining that their restaurant's too noisy.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool way to lean into people poking fun at them. They're like, hey, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then we talked about that before. Like, what if we could play the podcast in the bathroom? So you get to hear me and you just talking while you're dropping a deuce.
Having a doo-doo.
Like,
let me pull up the other fun list. I think it would be really, I mean, a lot of the little designy things.
well, what about focused on people? And
Our team, like people, guests, you mean?
yeah, because so because with the bathroom and the menus,
yeah,
that's almost, well, it doesn't have to be leadership driven initiative, but that's an initiative that is like almost like a black and white thing.
sure.
Where it's like, if you decide to do it, like if we decide to create a new menu, or if we decide to put a speaker in the bathroom and play something there, or dress up the bathroom a little bit more, it's A plus B equals C. We can, set a timeline and a deadline on it, and it'll happen.
Sure.
Versus something like, so the thing that bugs me more than anything at almost every cafe is wait times in line. Like, I get completely frustrated by wait times in line. And I see opportunities where, ourselves included, it's like we can manage the guest experience to still make it amazing when someone's giving their order, and move the line a lot faster than we do.
And I mean, streamlining that whole process is maybe a project in and of itself when it comes down to like, how could we simplify and optimize the POS system we have, or switch it? I mean, but that's
I don't even think it's just the POS though. I think it's like looking at,
it's part of it.
It's how do you move a conversation forward while still making people feel like they're cared for? How do you
cut it off?
How do you take that order expeditiously, if that's even a word, and still make the people feel super stoked? Because as cool as it is to have some sort of bigger drawn out, actually, I don't even think it's cool to have a bigger drawn out conversation at the register. It's like, people don't need 2 extra minutes of our time when they're also trying to get coffee, because there's other people that they can interact with in the space, like whether it's the barista, a floater, whatever, or each other.
Yeah.
So,
I hear you. I think that one's a mix of like the art of the time and ability to like consistently check in and train through that stuff.
Yeah.
As well as looking at, where are the little potential bottlenecks that slow us up, or little things that.
I agree with you on the POS too, by the way.
Yeah, totally. I mean, but that takes like a reworking of something you used forever, and or a switching, and that stuff is always an undertaking. That can take a while.
Yeah.
And it plays with how you do everything. I mean, what would we do other than those things? I mean, there's so many soft skills to train over time. Improving our guest experience. I think about it, right? What do they look for, and what makes the experience better? So, I mean, there's the need for engagement from our team all over the place, and that comes down to, better product knowledge. So the cheat sheet's one portion of that, but where can you seek to find answers to solutions, right? If you have, like being able to utilize the Line Buster POS in a fun and exciting way to move through some of these things, to even queue up a line would be great. Honestly, dude, even getting better at just making sure people know where to stand. I mean, the pandemic made it so that 4 people in line looks like a line out the door sometimes. You know, like, we got to get over this. We got to move different. Yeah. It's true.
I know.
Like, a part of me wants to get straight up queue. I'm not serious, but sort of serious. Like, straight up like Disneyland queues, and make people weave back and forth so that they don't just like spread out to the door. And it makes it feel, you know, like you couple all these things together, and it's like, if everybody just took 2 steps closer to each other, 4 people in line is not as intimidating looking as it could be. And some of these small spaces, 4 people is out the door, like Portola.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't have to be. It used to be 7, 8, 9 people before you're out the door.
Yeah.
Now it's like, so just stuff like that comes. What are the like psychological perceptions of what's happening, and how do we change that? And that's a lot of where my mind thinks about it, right? The bathroom isn't that, and it is that. The grinders and the ability to be really consistent is that, you know, like there's a consistency and there's a speed, there's this whole thing, the potential POS, the how people line up, how they read the menus. Man, if we could figure out a way to have merchandising, like have clear and concise pricing and understanding so that people can self-drive as much as possible. Links to find out more if they want to with their phones, so that they can, on their own time while they're in our cafes, learn all about us in some sort of natural find us sort of way, which we consistently work towards these things, but I think that's huge. I mean, we have added talkers and things that are great. You know, this is our Wi-Fi password. I can see it right over there on this thing. You don't have to get lost. So those are the experiences that I don't feel weird with design, assuming design can make it not feel over the top. Like, I don't feel weird showing people things in multiple places if we could find a way to design it. I'd like our menus to be literally like in a fun way, like in the floor, like some story about our mission, like, or something about who we are whimsically, like written on or colored into the walls or somewhere. You know, I want people to be able to grab parts of who we are. And, you know, I've seen that. I saw McConnell's do something like that. I've seen a bunch of companies do things like that.
Yeah.
And I wish that there was places for that to just kind of like be in all of our cafes. Little just tidbits that make you go like, oh, that's interesting, or that's cool, or that's fun. But that doesn't necessarily answer. It answers the generalized concept of experience. But like, if I could snap my fingers, we'd have the ability for a specific cleaning crew. Actually, would be awesome to like make sure everything stays buttery and perfect feeling all the time. And that we would like do portions of resetting that, but it wouldn't be, you know, it'd be so sick to have just like a nighttime cleaning. You're talking about Dreamless, man. If there was a nighttime crew that came in some capacity, nighttime person or two that just like made everything perfect every night.
Didn't they have that at Dune for a while?
They did have yeah. I mean, like I got some of those for us at Verve too. They'd come like a couple times a month and do like a thing.
Yeah.
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 If we had small little video access to like the exact things that we've leaned into and all the skill sets, even if we still need to teach them, to be able to just have video references of this is like the pinnacle of how we wanted to express whatever, so that as we move forward, we could attach people to get good at those things with us, and then therein like integrate that training more. You know, there's still a lot that's we've done such a good job, but there's still so much in terms of taking a list and turning it into a train, you know, like an understanding of what it looks like and feels like to, I mean, express it. To your point, if there's a little video of 4 or 5 different ways to move a conversation along at the register,
right?
It doesn't mean somebody understands that, but it means that our leadership can consistently re-reference it, and we can make it a priority.
So that's kind of where I was thinking this list might go.
Yeah.
Your list went in a different direction than where I thought it was going to go.
Well, there's an endless list in that place that I can't even start on.
It's like less people focused and more like thing focused.
Yeah.
Which, you know, the things that impact the people when they come in,
give them space to, in my mind, focus on the thing.
It's more like hard, like, okay, cool. Like, you know, it's a lot of design.
Yeah.
And experience
it's
elements.
Aesthetic. Yeah.
Yeah. Which seemed doable. Because I was kind of more thinking of the other side of it.
That whole thing?
Yeah.
It's a whole project in and of itself to just do, which I'm down, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, because here's what I'm kind of struggling with, and actually, I don't even want to talk about this yet because I'm still stewing on it. But we'll talk about it afterwards. I'm trying to figure out a way like to create those things that we need. You know what I mean? In terms of you're saying like if there were these 4 videos, or if there were these 5 videos, or if there was this video bank, I'm brainstorming some ideas on how to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So was like trying to get your perspective because I have my own list of like what are the most important things. Like if we were going to start doing that, what are the first 5 ones we would want to make? The first 5 things to create.
Right. What are the main points and how do you practice them?
Yeah.
And then how do you like see them modeled? I sent you that video of I think it was like a hometown buffet guy, and they were trying to teach him how to engage.
I've seen that before. Yeah.
So funny.
That thing's awesome.
And it's like all those old trainings are pretty smart. I think they're they're funny and obviously cheese ball, but they're going in a pretty powerful direction. And I think we don't do that enough. Well, I think, and also I imagine that they would just put those in for somebody and be like, now just copy it and you're done, and not have any enforcement on the other side of it and training. But
it is, yeah. If anybody hasn't seen the video, it's got to be from 1989 or something like that.
Sure.
It's a dude with a pretty sick mullet. Like maybe it's early 90s, maybe. But he's working the he's working the buffet station cutter, at Hometown Buffet. Oh yeah, he's chopping the meat.
He's chopping the roast beef and all that.
It's a tutorial on how to engage with your guest and like have some small casual conversation with them. And he's got these few taglines. What was the one he said? Have you tried the lasagna?
Yeah. Well, actually, but they even have one where he
pretty
like
crazy weather out there.
Yeah, pretty crazy weather. Try to engage them in a personal way. Yeah, exactly, to the kid. Have you tried the lasagna?
Have you?
But even down to if they want it, like if they want it thick cut, and we don't, offer that portion, or you try to get them. He's like, yeah, that's a great way to have it. It's best prepared with a thin slice for juiciness, but I can cut it like that if you want. May I suggest the other way, though? it was like something to that effect. And I was like, hey, you're even, like it's trying to uphold a standard without making somebody feel lame and whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
All that to say, those things they really are powerful and can be powerful. I think the problem in the past is you would have those videos, and there'd be such a separation between like what the culture actually wanted it to be and what the culture is that they wouldn't land, right? It'd be like everybody'd make fun of them or laugh at them and then maybe somewhat use them. But I remember seeing them at Jack in the Box. Then I was like, cool, I'm going to do this stuff. I'm not going to pay too much attention to, like I'm doing it because it's my job. And then the manager is going to make me feel horrible if I don't, do this, that, and the other. But if it was a place where you were kind of referencing something, like, oh, cool, yeah, I'm going to try to take that skill set and like mimic it in my own way, it could be really helpful.
I think the problem that those old school trainings have, because we had those at McDonald's too.
Right.
The Hometown Buffet one's actually decent in that it explains a little bit, why you would want to do that thing.
Sure.
But they're mostly rooted in the what. So it's what do you do? Okay, you say this line or you say that line. Here's some examples. And it's the same thing you get when you go to the hardware store and they have the same greeting. I go to Ace and they have the same greeting when I walk in the door. Everybody says the exact same thing. And
that's where all the fun begins.
When I leave, everybody says the exact same thing. And
right.
They're missing a bigger picture of why, but they're also missing some sort of inspiration, because the best guest service is going to be given by someone who is ideally both, but either genuinely excited about the product that they're serving, or genuinely understands how their interaction impacts the days and the feelings that other people have. Like if you can tap into either one of those two things, then you're set up to do it in a really authentic way and have some fun with it. And that's when it goes beyond lines, So let's take something like Wilson Morales, coffee farmer who we work with. We buy a lot of his coffee.
Best Friends Club
member. There's a bunch of different stories you could tell about him, right? And if someone at the concierge station is genuinely excited about that, they can meet someone where they're at and just not say like, have you tried the Wilson Morales? It's coffee from Honduras. Or like, oh, you're looking for coffee? Oh, cool. Just like the Best Friends Club stuff's where it's at. Wilson Morales, oh, dude.
Right.
Dude's an arborist, works for the tree service, does this stuff.
Right.
It's a passion project for him and da-da-da-da-da. Like, you could go a bunch of different directions for it and kind of cater to that guest and speak in an authentic way without a script because you know and you're excited about it and you've connected with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's the way, like that deeply engaged work. And I think if you build that connection, then you're winning. And that's where those 80s things are kind of missing. The fundamentals are good, but they're missing that big connective tissue.
Well, and I think we've done a lot of work too, because our what is the mission, right? What we do every day is actually trying to achieve the mission. So if we can paint pictures around these also what's, which is, or the things that we do operationally every single day, you kind of have to do. We make coffee, we do this, we clean, if we can start bridging the gap and call it a video, because that's what we're talking about right now, of like, okay, like, here's what we do. Here's some ways we could express our mission through this process. And in the perfect world, be able to play a values game with that too. If we're able to paint those pictures, man, that's awesome, right? That gives you the connection point that you are missing in those other 80s videos potentially. And that wasn't, I don't think in the 80s that was a big important factor in the work. You didn't, people needed to work at the time, so you got the job. And I was listening to, I listened to Lee Cockrell here and there talk, and he was just like, could you imagine, anybody who's old enough, could you imagine coming to your boss in like the 60s, 70s, and 80s with an idea? They were dragons. You were not allowed to give any sort of feedback to the organization. You were not allowed to have any opinions. Like, that does not fly. It flies now, and it's really good. You need to be able to adapt and evolve and learn from your people and to, like, have good relationships in your companies. And if you're not, like, you're going to get left behind. And that's kind of like his thing, is he's been able to consistently evolve over the years. But he's like, that was not allowed back then. Like, it was not stood for, and there was no protections for you in that way. So, I mean, that's one part of it, is being able to even have an expression and understanding. People didn't care. They didn't feel like they were allowed to care so much about the why. And then they found their couple lucky jobs maybe where they were allowed to be that way. But nowadays there's so much of that opportunity. There's also the opportunity to lean into the fun, and the whimsy of like having something that you do that matters. And that's where the art of like leadership meets the art of like what you design to be fun. So that, it's like the Magic Castle. You can go sit by the pool and they have a phone, and that only thing you can do on that phone is order ice cream. You can own, like, there's phones at every single, like, whatever and it's like you can only order ice cream sundaes for delivery by the pool. That's all the whole point is.
It's funny.
Right. And it's like, what are some of the fun, whimsical things that's a little bit experience-wise something.
It's like,
to answer a part of your question,
right? Yeah.
Yeah, but it is, but it's also not. It's also an engagement portion for the team that is specific to something fun, and that is, what is it around? That's around joy and whimsy. Like, it's a hospitality thing there potentially. You could like get into that, but it's an energy builder in my mind, and that kind of stuff goes a really, really long way. So that's where a lot of these things that I think about that are aesthetic and experience building, they're also the things that make you feel, that make me feel like I'm doing something kind of like, ooh, that's
right.
special and unique. Because there is special and unique in what we do every day, and our mission values, the hospitality that our team delivers, the connections, like, that is super cool. But it is also kind of like, you get it back, but you maybe don't get it back sometimes as much as you give it. And so these are places where you kind of like get to give it and get it back at the same time, in my opinion. It's really fun.
I think the difference is, well, I think the key is to be really clear about what people's opportunity is at work.
Sure.
And at some places, it's a little more obvious than others.
Right.
It's more obvious at a place like Disneyland that people are on vacation. They're there to have a great time. They fully expect to have their mind blown, and it's just like 100% fun time. It's probably easier to make that connection than to make the connection that we're trying to make, which is most of your life is spent doing what we would most people consider mundane things, but I don't think they're mundane at all. There's so much magic to be had in each one of these connection points. Something as simple as going to the coffee shop in the morning sets up your day to be either amazing or not.
Sure.
That picture's not painted so clearly most places.
That's
when
true.
you understand that, when you understand what it means to people to have this shop where they feel seen, valued, taken care of, they view everyone behind the counter as professionals and not just dumb kids doing work because they can't get another job, like that changes the whole game.
That's facts.
And I think within the grind of the day-to-day, people, it's almost part of our job to remind people of that, to let people know, because it's not as blatant as this is a phone just for ice cream.
Yeah.
Which we could also do, where it's like, this is a phone for a direct line. You can order weird, rare coffees from the roastery.
It'd be so fun to have something ridiculous
like that.
I want something like that.
And I think that's that missing link.
That's that missing link.
I mean, it really is. I'm not. Yeah, you know what I mean.
It's the perfect trail off. It's like when the deep thought over
life
there.
finds a way.
Dude, grass prevails.
Well, I mean, it's tricky because it's not even tricky. It's interesting because fundamentally, it's simple, right? Show people why their work matters, and if they want to do the work, they can be deeply engaged and get a lot of joy out of it.
Maybe also, to add to that, show them how to see the markers of that portion. Some people can't see it. Know what I'm saying? Like, so like all of what you said is so true, but some people can't see where to look for that validation of like, oh, my job does matter.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like show them how show them.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is like, as leaders, we can show them and speak to them about that and how we see their work. But until we can get them to see it for themselves, or not until, that is a portion that's really valuable. How do you get them to look for those things in the people that they serve around them, the people that they're working with, that to me is like, where are those like aha moments for those?
Well, right. Well, that's where I was going.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, you show them like that. It sounds simple to tell someone or show someone why their work matters.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to actually do it.
For sure.
And that's why I think so many people it's really hard to articulate it too sometimes.
Totally.
So it's not surprising that you would go to work and feel disconnected or unengaged, even for people who are trying to do a really good job with this. It's just not, it's not easy.
Well, it just takes it's like those moments happen every day. The work is busy, especially at times it's extra busy, right? When it's slammed. And that's something that I think we as leaders and I ask our team leaders and coordinators to do, which is try to find those moments to remind the team daily so that they can start practicing seeing it too. And there's that whole, like, you got to slow down to be able to see things occasionally, but when you're slammed, you might just be busy and stressed out. But if your team leader or your coordinator on the other side of doing like $1,000 hour comes back to you and is like, yo, we got just beat down, but like I saw that moment when you did the thing, and that's like, you got a reaction, or whatever the case may be. There's kind of a million examples, but I think that's the stuff that you reinforce over and over and over again. And it is hard. And that's like the art of even just being able to see it at all is tough, but to be able to see it consistently and be able to like share that win with your team is so powerful.
So what are you doing to check in with your team and make sure that they know that make sure that they know when they're doing it right?
Well, I asked them to kind of come back to me a lot of the times with experiences, or I asked them, like questions like we adjusted somebody's quarterly goal. We'll talk about on Wednesday a little bit, because it's like, hey, is it really fit? And this is not exactly that, but it is that. It's like, you need to get a certain little section of work dialed in such a way so that you're free to do this whole other thing. And what's that going to actually look like? Because you being able free to experience this other portion of life is part of like that symbiotic relationship with work. And so if this little group of people or this person isn't able to take work off your plate, you're not going to be able to experience this whole thing as you should. And so what's it going to take between your relationships to get to that place? And that's a long-winded answer of one example. Then there's the other example of exactly what I told you, which is, if a team leader is saying, I'm just having a hard time connecting them to, the values and the work and this, that, and the other, that is sometimes my homework is, okay, well, your job now is to look for how they did something related to our values or our mission that is exemplary or awesome, and remind them of that a few times this week when you see it happen. And if it's the other way around and an opportunity to teach, maybe same thing, like give them the opportunity to see through that process. So those are two things that recently I've talked about, and that's check-ins. And then I'll ask them how it went and what's going on, and but that again, that's specific to an idea of reminding them and helping people to see like how our work makes a difference. That's not the whole picture. It's just part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you do? What do you do, bro?
I try to get as visual with it as I can.
Yeah.
So I'll use Wiser as an example, since he's gonna edit this podcast anyway. So you heard it here first. Wiser is an incredible designer. He makes things look really pretty and engaging, and he's got a good sense of what our aesthetic is. But one of the things that he can forget is the impact that it has on people and the overall contribution. So he's prone to sometimes getting stuck in the mud overthinking stuff because he just really wants it to go well. So we have conversations with this on like a semi-regular basis. But the one that was the most fun for me was we're in the roastery, and I said, you come next door. Let's go next door. Our Swift Street Cafe is next door. So we walk over next door, and we're standing in the cafe. I'm just like, what do you see? Oh, I see a lot of stuff. And I was like, well, let me tell you what I see. I see bags on the shelf. I see people buying them right now. You designed everything on that bag, and it looks beautiful. I see a merch shelf full of things that you designed yourself, and I see people buying it every day, and I see us selling out of it all the time. I see the menu that you created that people are engaging with, and then we walk over to the espresso machine. I'm like, I see these cups that have this amazing logo that didn't exist until you created their updated logo.
Right.
And the font to go with it on the backside. We have these beautiful cat and cloud blue cups that are branded, whereas before we were simply stamping cups old school, and just kind of giving a in real time list, tangible examples of like, this is you doing work that you're really good at.
You cannot deny it.
That you're killing it at. But the even bigger part of it is like, cool, I get to see that my work is good. Every single person who's walking out of here with coffee is leaving with a piece of your art.
Yeah.
Whether that's merch, whether that's a bag of coffee, whether that's a cup with our logo on it.
Right.
It's like you're creating things that people are bringing into their homes. They're living on their counters. They're sitting in their cup holders. They're with them at their desks. Like, this is incredible because they could go anywhere for coffee, and they're choosing to come here and engage with us because of the things that we as a team create. And you're a big part of that. And then the people in the cafe are a big part of that. The people at the roastery, like everybody has a part of that. And like, that's where the whole comes together. So as much as I can, I'll try to give like these tangible examples and like visualize it as much as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
And you know, that's my favorite way to do it.
Yeah.
So, and then we'll see, like,
how do you ever ask him like how are you going to articulate that, Wiser? And make him speak to it a little bit, almost as practice, because that's kind of the thing that I'm like, that's the thing I'm like trying to work on, right? Is like now you do it. Like if I can see it, cool. If I can see it, like to my point earlier, like what if we're using Wiser, hey Wiser. And I'm not talking to you, even though you listen to this, but sort of, right? Like, so I can see it. What's going to help you start seeing it? Like what, like what's your Wiser homework to be like, tell me about the shit, like No, I'm not saying that like you should be doing that. But you know what I'm saying? Like for my team, I'm like, I need you to see this too. I need you to start seeing this and being able to speak to it as well for others. And I know Wiser in that department is the three of you. So I'm like, I need that to happen. And now Herman, because Herman's running retail, shout out Herman, but he needs that team to really get super vocal about it.
Well,
too.
And I think the way to get vocal about it is, so there's two things that need to happen.
Right.
There's you can show someone what good looks like.
Sure.
Then you can show them the impact of what that is. Yeah. And then, well, you can make that a routine. Yeah. So in our work review, like we're trying to really catch people doing things right, fair. As well as looking at what's going wrong. And
it's a good thing.
I try to mix both, even if one is skewed more. It's like, so something as simple as writing copy for the company, because I think copy is really important. The written word, like people are reading super what you're putting out there. You're kind of speaking.
I don't think it's easy.
Not through the lens of any one person, but through the lens of this organization, which can feel like this nebulous thing, but it shouldn't. So Kira is writing a lot of our copy, and we're digging into everything, and I'm trying to find examples of her doing it well, and then examples of when it needs to be updated. And painting the picture is one thing, but at some point, the person doing the thing, once they know what it looks like, has to decide that they can do that well. They have to say, like, okay, I have good examples and bad examples. I now have enough information to go out there and make it happen.
For sure.
So with our team's really small, your team's a lot bigger. So it's like, it's really more about, in my case, getting people to trust themselves, because the work is more obvious, I think.
That makes sense.
It's so very obvious. Like, you cannot deny, like, when I did that exercise with Wiser, when we go into the cafe, it's plain as day. All this shit is fucking beautiful, and people are buying it.
Yeah.
That is
two metrics for you right there.
And like it's we can have a debate about this part, but I would bet just huge swaths of money that having all these beautiful things in the cafe adds to the texture and richness of the experience in the cafe. You know, if you strip the merch shelves down and put in a shitty coffee bag and all these things, like, it adds up. It's like those little things that you're talking about earlier that, like, people don't immediately notice them on their own, but they all help create this feel. So that's not really up for debate. It's not up for debate of whether you know what it looks like, whether you know how to do it. Like, the only thing up for debate is, will you choose to do it again? Will you choose to focus on it and push forward in doing the next design? Are you going to own that? And I think in the same way that when I would, so let's rewind the clock, when I used to do a lot of barista training, because that was kind of my previous life. Like, the biggest challenge when you're doing new barista training, the biggest metric of success isn't how much anybody learned. It's not whether they learned how to steam milk well. It's not whether they learned how to pour latte art well. It's not whether they learned how to extract espresso perfectly. The number one primary metric is, it's like, are they feeling confident coming out of that? Do they leave that room feeling like they're on the right path, feeling like they know more than when they went in, and whatever little tidbit you taught them, they felt like they could own it. And then everything else comes later, but you're helping them make a decision that says, like, I can do this. Like, I can be a barista. I can texture really good milk. I can pull a really good espresso. And maybe they're only 2 out of like 20% of the way there.
Sure.
That doesn't fucking matter. All that matters is that they feel excited to do it again.
Right.
And they feel like empowered, like they're owning what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that is, I mean, you do that doing all of those things. Like, you paint a smaller picture of them than the reality is. Just kind of like we were talking about the menus earlier. You're not like, here's coffee, it's fucking crazy, bro. Like, you're never going to learn it all. Yeah. You can set the stage like, coffee's really interesting. There's so many paths to explore. And the coolest thing about coffee is that once you get into it, there's like a never-ending wormhole that you can go down if you so choose. So it's like, you're never going to be bored. And that's really rad. Here are the first 5 things you need to know about coffee to feel comfortable serving it, connect with the guest, and make people super stoked.
Yeah.
And like you master this, like if you do that and get them excited about it, it's the excitement and the energy that makes them want to learn more. They're in charge of their own learning more. It's almost, I heard this great analogy, which is like, okay, baseball or football, pick any sport, whatever it is. Like, how do you get people excited about sports? You don't have them read a book about basketball saying like, here are all the rules of basketball. Here's what out of bounds is. Here's what this is. Here's what no, you take them to a fucking game. You take them to a game and they're at the game and they're like, this is sick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know anything about this, but now I want to.
Yeah, now there's energy.
Like, how does this work? Wait, who's that player? Wait, what's that? Like that, what's double dribble? Like, how does this work? What's over? Like all of these things. Like you don't tell them that it's good. Like you show them. Like you have them experience the thing. And I think it's like that across all of the things. Like the things that we can experience and feel in our gut, that connects with us in a way that's deeper than like we can ever write a manual or you can ever give a list. So it's all about excitement. It's all about excitement and passion. Like how do you connect it? You're looking for the twinkle in their eye. So that's like that's how I try to approach things. And like everyone's excited about something. You know what I mean? Like no one's completely just blah. Like everyone's excited about something. And it's so cool when you can find that thing that connects it for them.
I mean, I think specialty coffee is especially in the retail experience of specialty coffee, there's in all the places really, but there's a place for someone's excitement. Find the twinkle.
Find the twinkle.
Hey everyone, that's the podcast for the week. Thanks so much for listening. If you heard something that inspired you, let us know or tell a friend. These are the types of connections that are the most important to us and that we seek to create every day. If there's something you heard and you want to know more about, send us an email to podcast@catandcloud.com or head to our website, catandcloud.com/podcast, and let us know. While you're on our site, check out everything we have to offer. Dive deep into one of our single origin coffees or pick up a little treat for yourself. We have something for everyone, so check it out. Also, find us in the usual places, YouTube, Instagram. We're always there sharing amazing things. All right, that's it. Thanks everyone for being awesome. We'll be back next week.